Welcome to the AllStar Networking Podcast. It's the show where you hear from a new expert each week on how to build an all-star network, increase business sales, grow careers, find a job, or enrich your life. Let's get it started. From the Midtown Global Market in Minneapolis, here's your host, Kathy Paper.
Happy holidays, everyone. Kathy Paper at the Midtown Global Market. Super excited for today's guest, but first I got to talk about Matt Tell. Awesome extraordinaire, pink headband, headphones and all. I know you don't want a new Christmas gift, Matt, but Matt is the executive director. He's the executive director, the Friends of the Midtown Global Market, the organization that supports all the cool efforts going on here in this building. 30 different entrepreneurs, lots of activity. And joining us today is Dina Simon, Dina, welcome back to the market.
Thank you.
And tell everyone, the listeners, a little bit about yourself. And then we'll get started chatting all things networking and people.
Awesome. So I'm Dina Simon. I'm a friend of Kathy Paper's, and hopefully we'll talk about how we met. I'm an author. Kathy was also my publisher on my book, and that was 2015, so it's been a long time.
Best-selling author.
Oh, thank you, best-selling author. I have two businesses here in town. Simon Says Give, which is a nonprofit that my daughter and I founded a few years ago, and then Simon Says Lead is my consulting company, and support a couple of clients on a really regular basis, and just love this town and love that we're doing this to support small businesses as well here at the market.
That's why I thought you'd be a fabulous guest. So I'm happy you're here. And we're sitting by the door, which is for anyone not from Minnesota. Every time the door opens, we all huddle in a little closer, and you're wrapped up and you're going to a holiday party after this, but not an ugly Christmas party. Ugly Christmas sweater party.
I just have a cute sweatshirt that's Christmas, but I think there will be some ugly sweaters there too.
Good. I love that. I say always as the Jewish girl who loves everything about Christmas. Like that's one of the things I love is everybody dressed up.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so running all these different businesses and just knowing you from your book and from all these years, before we get to how we met, maybe just say a little bit about how have you gotten so good at meeting so many people?
Oh, you're so nice.
It's the truth.
Well, I don't know. So I think just relationships. Relationships are super important to me. And I think I lean in, with trust, first and wanting to get to know people. And so finding, if I walked into a room of 500 people, I'm sure I'd walk out with maybe 5 new friends. I might not walk out with 50 new friends, but hopefully at least 5. So I just think, finding people throughout my life journey, you never know who's going to be an amazing friend and collaborator. And so I'm always open.
Awesome. And as this a skill, I feel like you had this in high school. When I think about the book that you wrote and you greeting people by the door on the way into school, like maybe I was really looking forward to today because we've talked a lot about how does networking solve problems for business, but also in life, and I don't know, maybe just...
So I'd love to share that story. So Dick Paul was the vice principal of Totino Grace. He was also one of the football coaches, and he became a very dear friend of mine. So he was my statistics teacher.
As in math? Statistics?
In math,
okay.
Yep. And whatever period that was, if it was second period, third period, we would stand outside the front door of the classroom, and he was, 6 foot something, big guy, and little 5'3" me. And we would just say hello to people. And at first they were like, okay, that's weird. Like, why are you saying hi? And then we ended up being the greeting crew, and people would actually want to stop by that hallway because you could have gone to different ways. But to get that morning hello.
Oh, so this was totally like high school. Nobody wanted to, imagine that they wanted to be greeted pleasantly.
Exactly. Yeah, they were crabby, going, what's up? What do you want? Am I in trouble kind of thing?
Right. Yeah. And how many years did you do that? Was it a thing, or did it just start your senior year? Or?
I think that was our freshman year, because I think that's when I had, or my freshman year, because I think that's when I had him for class. But it was just when the class was over, I don't know that I had the opportunity to continue to do it.
Love that. The
Yeah.
teachers that make such an
Yeah,
impact.
huge
No, but you
impact,
have this
huge
in your
impact.
you have this in your DNA.
So I would tell you, if I have it in my DNA, I would reflect back on probably two things. So one, I'm adopted, and so my daughter Mandy also is, and we joke about this, but we love to like collect people along the way as if like, you know, your family. So there is a piece to that from just how I came into this world. And then also I'm a middle child, and I think in the being a middle child, like, hello, remember I'm here, so I'm used to putting myself out there. So if I had to look back, those are probably two kind of born character traits that allow me to network
Nice.
with ease and try to connect with people.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I'm having a flashback to in grad school. I went to St. Thomas for graduate school, and the class was on career development, and they called it your non-normative experiences. So those are the non-normative experiences because not everybody is adopted.
Sure.
Not
Yeah.
everybody's the middle
Middle
child,
child,
and
yep.
that's sort of your non-normative. Like, it's what shapes you. It's what makes you.
Makes me me.
It makes you Dina Simon. Simon says give.
I
Simon
love
says
it.
leads. So, okay, do you want to tell people how we met?
Sure.
Matt, I'm trying to read Matt. Every once in a while I try to read Matt, and I'm getting the laughs.
Does Matt know how we met?
I know. Matt does not know.
Right.
And Matt always likes to hear stories, I think.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so Kathy and I were in Hollywood, California. We were at a speakers, authors, networking group. And I was there, and you were there with Harvey.
Correct.
Okay.
And this was like 2009.
Maybe 2009, 2010.
I wasn't trying out for the Hollywood movies that I would like to be in, but
And I randomly was talking to somebody, and they're like, oh, you're from Minnesota. You should meet the other person that's here from Minnesota, basically. And that was Kathy Paper. So I think she pointed me out to you, and I'm sure I walked over and said hello. I was told I needed to meet you, and I think that's how we met.
yes, and I've told you this because I still remember you were wearing the cutest blue and white striped skirt. Like, you were one of the best dressed people in this room. Not that they were schlubby, but like, you looked good. And I was like, I like this woman. Like, Minnesota, she's got style. And remember, we talked about that too, of like, you lived in San Francisco
Yeah.
for so long.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we met there, and then you did your book.
Yeah, and so when we met, so again, relationships. So we met, and back then, like, I don't even know if we like connected with communicate. Here's how to get in touch with me. But then I had coffee a couple months later with a mutual friend of ours, and somehow randomly was talking about this thing I was at, and I mentioned Kathy Paper, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Kathy Paper is like one of my best friends." And so I think probably because of that, we just got reconnected.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. I think about relationships, they kind of ebb and flow. And if you're in
Yeah.
business right now,
Absolutely.
or you're in sales, when you meet people, do your relationships sort of blossom instantly? Or like, let's go back to your
Sure.
statistics class.
Yeah.
And do you think that like your relationships thrive in like the first 3 meetings or over years? I
Sure.
mean, we've known each other now a decade.
Yeah.
More.
So I went back because it has been a while. I went back and looked at like the relationship strategy that we built in my book, and like that inner circle and how your core people that you're hanging with on a really regular basis typically stays the same. Somebody might fall out just because of proximity, or you're not collaborating. Heaven forbid you get in a fight with them. I mean, stuff happens, right? But then, the next group of people, your catalyst people that you still have in your network, but maybe they're not on a regular day-to-day basis. So I think some stuff can ebb and flow. And then with COVID, I mean, gosh, the pandemic, I think, changed everything. So whatever our relationship strategy was prior, I think most of that got thrown out the window, and we've had to reinvent who do we want to be collaborating with? Who do we want to be connected with?
Right. Okay. So I think we got to go back just for a second. Well, Matt was getting new batteries for his microphone. I want to go back to the idea of the relationship strategy because not everybody listening has a relationship strategy. And maybe the people that do have a relationship strategy, you kind of want to refresh it, right? It's the end of the year. We're all thinking, how do we do something? give a little overview of that process from your book, because you did it pretty quickly. Sure. Again, I will tell you one of the things I remember about you and I love about you is you're so fast moving processing that I think at one call I said to you, I go, Dina, I'm back on my heels, or whatever the expression is. I was like, I can't keep up with you. Like, slow down for a second. So explain kind of that strategy, and then just break it down a little bit of how, like, if you were running a business here of these entrepreneurs, what's your relationship strategy? Do you have a goal with it?
If I'm one of the vendors, who are other vendors that could be similar as far as business ownership issues? They all might have some of the same issues, certainly hiring staff and keeping staff and training staff and revenue. But how to find people that you can collaborate with, that you can trust. And some of that is trial and error, just based on trying to get to know people. And then finding, because I think we all need community, so finding those that you can, it doesn't have to be a formal mastermind group for you to come together and collaborate and talk about challenges, both in business and in life and in the town that you're in. There's a lot of stuff going on that you can't necessarily control. So in relationship strategy, I think from a business perspective, but also my friends and family. So I think business, friends, family, and so often in my world, they're all intertwined. Being purposeful on, okay, who are the people at the end of the year that I want to say, so if I'm sending holiday cards or things, like who at the end of the year do I want to say, oh my gosh, thank God I spent time with them this year, whether it be in person, a Zoom call, what is that? And so being on purpose on who's in that relationship kind of circle. And then if there's people that have fallen out, like, wow, why did that happen and how do I get that back? And I think that was a big thing through COVID, is I think we lost some of just those connections, and then reflecting on who am I missing, literally missing, and how do I get back into spending time with them.
I love the holiday cards, the reflecting back and the thinking forward. It's a great analogy for seeing how your strategy comes together. Yeah. So you helped my son find his summer internship.
Yes.
And you are a big champion connector of other people. How do you find time for doing all of those connections? How do you make...
Yeah, great question. So it may seem that that's all I'm doing, but I don't feel that way. I think it's very organic. And so if somebody said, you had posted, I think on Facebook, that your son Eric needed to have a summer job, and that was as easy as it was.
Because he was tired of his lawn job from the summer before.
He was. And I also knew he's a college kid home, probably doesn't have a ton of time because he was going to be traveling. I knew enough. And so I pinged you and said, how long of a assignment does he want? And, will he take...
Right.
Certainly not minimum wage, but not, $50 an hour. And then I just knew of somebody who had a need for him. So it was something quick. If I hadn't had something in the back of my mind, I don't know that I would have been able to have the same result for Eric, but it worked out great.
Yeah. But again, I just from observing your, this is the AllStar Networking Show, right? At Midtown Global Market.
Yes.
Could I say that again, Matt?
Yes, you can.
Lots of holiday events. There's still time, or they're all through the years. You can find it on the website.
We should do speed networking here. I would love that.
We can do speed networking here. But I was thinking you also build relationships, deep relationships everywhere. And I can't remember the name of the Italian restaurant you took me to.
Oh, Anoni's.
Anoni's.
Yes.
Yeah. So just tell people, how does that happen? How does it happen? How do you do that?
Well, so Bill Miller, who owns Sunfish Wine Cellars, and he's got a super brilliant business story. Maybe you should have him on.
Okay.
But he had to move because the complex that they were building, or the complex that he was in, they were tearing it down. So down the street was Anoni's, a restaurant that was there, and he knew the owners, and so we got talking, and he ended up purchasing a beautiful Italian restaurant that's tied to a deli. And then he moved the liquor and wine to be part of the deli. And so just hugely successful. And how I got to know him in the beginning was at my daughter's school, myself and my friend Jen Simic, who you know. Jen and I were responsible for the wine cellar. So we became friends with Bill when he had Sunfish.
Wait, what's the wine cellar?
The wine cellar at the gala, at the annual gala.
Oh.
Yes. So of course we're going to try and get very connected to the man that owns Sunfish Wine Cellars and also has children at the same school. So we built a relationship there, and he's been a huge donor, not just for us when we were the wine divas, but continued and has supported the school. And
I like that title, by the way.
The
We're
Wine
having
Diva?
T-shirts made
Yes.
up that says Dina, the Wine Diva.
I love it.
Because you could have T-shirts printed here too, right, Matt? Yeah.
Nice. So just, built a relationship there, and then it's continued, and that's another decade plus of, he's been a huge supporter hosting events for us at Simon Says Give, our annual kind of give back to our key donors. And so Celerity is the staffing firm that Eric came and worked with me at. So I am a fractional chief people officer for them. And they're celebrating my kind of 1 year anniversary coming more into the business with them. And they just sent me an Anoni's gift card this morning.
Hey.
So there you go. How did you know that?
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think you radiate the connections around you. It's one of the things that I love about you, and I think has been really fruitful to making you so successful at things. And so, again, anyone kind of listening, thinking about connections come in all different shapes and forms. And you were volunteering for your daughter's school.
Yep.
You were advocating for it. You figured out how to ask for the wine, but also to build a relationship and genuinely care. And I just love the part of the community, I think, benefits from relationships with big vendors, small people, everyone, everyone's welcome.
Well, everybody is welcome. And the fun part, like with Bill, is we go in a lot, pretty often to like the restaurant and stuff, and I will be the first to text him to say, oh my God, we had the most amazing service, like here's who we had, and like give him that. But I'll also give him the feedback to say, hey, just so you know, like this didn't go real well. And I don't get that very often that I have to text him that, but he knows if I'm going to give him honest feedback, he loves that I'll give him honest feedback because as a business owner, if you don't know what's not going well, you don't know what's not going well. So having those trusted, people in your network that can give you that feedback.
Nice. Are there any stories or any time where you think your network was really helpful to you to solve a problem?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't have done Simon Says Give without my network, really. And so that's a testimony to, Mandy, my daughter, was 7 going on 8, and how we built a nonprofit that has supported over 250,000 children with backpacks, birthdays, volunteer opportunities in the past decade. We didn't do any of that on our own. We did it completely through business connections, both here in Minnesota and outside of Minnesota, but that was truly all because of relationships and partners in this community. So solving the problem to be able to support the kids that we were trying to support, that would be number one.
Wow. And okay, so 250,000 kids, because I think back, if it's been, you said 11 years, you said a few years. There's a big difference. In my mind, a few is like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
11 years is a long time.
Yeah.
You're legit. You've done all kinds of things, including the fashion show that I was in.
Yes.
Matt, we'll send you photos, Matt. I was in a fashion show.
Yes,
I walked the runway.
Yes, I know. I missed that. We had so much fun.
Well, you've done some really cool things. How did you first put together that advisory board? How did you build that?
So again, relationships, and one kind of connection led to the next connection, and that's where like our first group that we had. So I talked about Dick Paul from my high school. His wife Sue Paul was on the board with us originally. Jeff Brown was on the board with us, and so Sue came from education. Jeff came from, Apple and many other things, so ideation and innovation. Colleen Kahn was our secretary, and she came from, she was running the Buckman Fellowship here at the U. So again, knew a lot about philanthropy, how to do things. So we just created a really working board that had very specific talents that wanted to be a part of it. Kate Nyland was an attorney that joined our team. Like, we just were really on purpose for like education, legal, philanthropy, like who are the seats sitting around the table.
Didn't you have Darren and Lou at the beginning, or no?
No, so Lou joined a couple years later, and Darren wasn't on our board, but Darren was the one that worked with Mandy to create her online presence with our website.
Ah.
Yes.
So Darren Lynch, Irish Titan. We got to give him a little
Darren Lynch,
plug.
Irish Titan. So when Jeff Brown asked me, what do you need? I said, oh my God, like we need a website. Like I wouldn't even know where to begin to do that. And he said, let me get back to you. So he reached out to Darren, and Darren loved the story, and Darren and Mandy. So 11 years is when we incorporated, and we say the last 10 years is really what we've done from an impact perspective, because our first birthday boy, Ben, we celebrated in April of 2012. So wow. This is really our 10-year.
Nice.
But Darren has been around for 11 years supporting Mandy every year.
Wow. Just pulling that group together and asking people. Again, I think it's awesome what you've done and built, and totally leverage the power of relationships and building them authentically, all that. You're amazing.
Thank you.
So, okay, Dina, so one of the questions I'm thinking about is we sit here and I notice not every place opens up right at 10 o'clock because the economy is tough right now to get key staff to work, and finding good staff is hard to keep. And how do you do that? With your recruiting background, is any thoughts on how do we do it? Any tips for finding good talent and keeping them in today's economy?
Yeah, so hard, right?
Especially can kids walk over or young people?
Yeah. So I think so much of it is for here, this building is beautiful. So I'm sure it's extremely easy to get to, whether because it's off a bus line. So I think the magic here is how do you show the inside of this building to the outside world that you're trying to recruit in, and feature some of these cool business owners. So finding talent that wants to come work in restaurant, retail, it's hard work. And so figuring out where you find them, and then how do you show them what the day in life is going to be like, getting super creative. But there are some amazing vendors, like the food vendors, the retail vendors, people that want to work and need to work for a paycheck, but they still want to be tied to the ownership of the establishment. So, who am I going to be working for and why? And I talked about speed networking, maybe some type of a career fair, come to get to know the Midtown market. So many people probably haven't even been in here.
Right, and maybe talking it up among some of the schools too, or the colleges, to say that. I like the idea of the day in the life of it, because it's vibrant here.
Absolutely.
As we sit here, a lot of people walk by, but it's also a good community. Some of my best jobs were where I had community.
Absolutely. Yes. I don't know if you know this, but I was a waitress at Chili's in college, and that's how I met my father-in-law, which then led me to meeting Rich, my husband. So I was a waitress and got to know his dad went in often because it was where his work was. So I think showing people from the outside what this amazing place is, the different businesses, and recruiting can always be a challenge. It doesn't matter the economy, because you got to find people that truly want to show up on time and work hard while they're there. And sometimes you have to go through a few bad hires to find those good hires. Kathy, you shared a couple of the places are doing some creative things on where they're finding talent. So giving people, opportunities to get back into the work world for whatever reason. There's a lot of ways from a diversity and inclusion perspective to get creative.
Right. It's great. Yeah. Thank you so much. And as I said, Dina Simon, AllStar Networker. Check out Simon Says Give. Check out Simon Says Lead.
I love it. And I see an artesian cheese place right around the corner.
Yes, all local. Minnesota, Wisconsin. You can get some of your Wisconsin cheese that you need there.
All right.
Okay, over and out. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays. Thanks. You.
Thank you for listening to the All-Star Networking Podcast with Kathy Paper. To learn more about strategic networking and making impactful connections, visit rockpaperstar.com. Please join us in supporting the Midtown Global Market as a vital community resource that supports small business, cultural diversity, and free or low-cost programming. Reach us at friendsofglobalmarket.org.